Hello, friends. Craig Ballard, Locked On Blue Jays. Today's episode brought to you by HelloFresh. Home opener finally here. Also, happy Alec Manoah Day to those of you who celebrate. On today's episode of Locked On Blue Jays, we'll get you set for this homestand in the first segment, and then we're joined by Scotty Bentley of Locked On Tigers as we deep dive this Blue Jays-Tigers series.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Craig Ballard. I am Locked On Blue Jays, and I'm thankful that you're choosing to spend part of your day talking Toronto Blue Jay baseball with me. If you're taking this in on YouTube, please hit the, you know the drill, the old like, comment, subscribe. Help share it with your family, friends, maybe coworkers that you know are Blue Jay fans as well. And for those of you taking this in and making Locked On Blue Jays part of your daily podcast routine, certainly want to tip my hat and say thank you for that as well. We've been waiting. Not sure we've been patient. Well, I'm not sure I've been patient, I'll tell you that. And we get why the home opener took so long to get here, right? Because of the renovations and that. But still, every other team had their home openers already. And most were over a week ago, for crying out loud. So time for the Toronto Blue Jays and their fan base to have some fun. We're all very excited about this now. In particular, I'm excited because this opening round series, or this opening series opponent, I should say, is the very lowly Detroit Tigers. The Blue Jays took 3 out of 4 at Rogers Center from Detroit last season. And if you take your mind's eye back to that series, you'll remember Matt Chapman caught fire. 4-game series. Chapman hit a home run in the first game, 2 in the second game, and another in the Valley in that fourth game. 4 home runs in that series. So this Detroit pitching, he smells what Detroit is cooking, Matt Chapman does. Let's put it that way. And it's not even like Matt Chapman needs a specific or hand-picked opponent to get his bat going, right? He has been incredible to start this season. Blue Jays lifetime at home against the Detroit Tigers, 130-96. They've been very good over the years at home against the Tigers. Tigers off to the sort of poor start you'd think they'd be off to. On the road, they've they've won just 2 of the 6 games. They were swept in the season opening series to Tampa Bay, who isn't being swept by Tampa Bay these days, right? But then took 2 out of 3 at Houston. That was a nice, pleasant surprise there. Now, overall, this team hitting just .205. Only Oakland and Kansas City are worse offensively than the Tigers from a batting average standpoint. As far as getting on base, only Kansas City has been worse than the Detroit Tigers, and no team in baseball has fewer home runs than Detroit's 5. There's a few other teams that have as little as 5, but no team in baseball has fewer home runs than the Detroit Tigers. Not a good team offensively. How about on the mound? 6.84 ERA. Only the Oakland A's have had a worse pitching staff so far than the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers are one of just 3 teams in all of baseball that don't even have a quality start from a starting pitcher yet. Matt Manning and Spencer Turnbull will get games 1 and 3. Now, yeah, each have had one start in their career versus the Blue Jays. To be honest, they were both good in those 1 starts, and Turnbull's came at Rogers Center. The middle game is going to be Eduardo Rodriguez versus Gausman. Now, Eduardo Rodriguez, longtime Boston Red Sox, has had a lot of experience versus the Jays. Jays have had a lot of experience versus Eduardo Rodriguez. And as much as the Blue Jays have struggled lately against lefties, last few seasons against lefties, they haven't struggled against Eduardo Rodriguez. He is a career 5-6 with a 5.20 ERA. It's better at Rogers Center. It's a 4.38 ERA at Rogers Center. And to be honest, that's not half bad, but still, you see the Blue Jays have had success against Eduardo Rodriguez. We've talked a few times on Locked On Blue Jays that the 2022 Toronto Blue Jays, nobody was worse against lefties. Nobody. Only of winning contending teams, right? Like literally, yes, the Washington Nationals, who are the worst team in baseball. Yes, literally they were worse against the Blue Jays. But of winning teams, of actual contending teams, the Blue Jays at 12-20 last season versus lefties were by far the worst team, a good team against baseball against lefties. Off to a good start this season, though. 3-2 versus lefties to start this season. How about some notable Detroit Tigers? Well, hard to get more notable than Miguel Cabrera, right? Than Miggy, right? We know that first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the special players we've ever seen. What's incredible is in his career against the Toronto Blue Jays, had a ton of games. I mean, he's been in the league forever. He's played a ton of games against everybody. The Jays are no exception. He's played 88 games against the Blue Jays, but the Jays are an exception against Miguel Cabrera when it comes to teams that have success against Miguel Cabrera. 88 games versus the Blue Jays, Cabrera hitting .245 with a .323 on base and a .743 OPS. Those are all career lows. 245 over 88 games for Miguel Cabrera. He's definitely, I mean, this is it. This is his last season. He's very at the end of his career. I think he's like 4 for 20. I think it is this season. Like, he is very at the end of his career. But of course, these 88 games, most of those were right in this first ballot Hall of Famer's wheelhouse in his prime. And the Blue Jays always did well against this guy. How about against tonight's specific starter, Alek Manoah? So it's at Rogers Center. At Rogers Center over his career. Speaking of career lows, Miguel Cabrera hitting just 211. Wow, with a 303 on base. So he's not even taking walks at Rogers. And against Alek Manoah, Miguel Cabrera's had 3 at-bats in his career. He struck out the first at-bat against Manoah. He struck out a second at-bat against Manoah. Oh, that's right. He struck out the third at-bat against Manoah as well. Been complete domination for Man Mountain Manoah against the absolute beast. I guess the once was beast, we should say, right? That is Miguel Cabrera. Now, that's advantage Blue Jays in this first. Remember, we're taking a look here at the homestand in general. It's a 6-game homestand. It's going to go from Tuesday all the way through to Sunday. So the first 3 games, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just by showing up to these games on time, this should be 2 out of 3 for the Blue Jays. And we may, and I know this is a tall order because Detroit is still a major league team, but we really may need to insist on a sweep against this Tiger team because of the next opponent. It's the Tampa Bay Rays coming in on Friday for a weekend series. Oh boy, their Tampa Bay Rays are the reason for the for the no hair over here. They drive me absolutely nuts. They always beat the Blue Jays. It's never mattered what the rosters are, what team is playing well at that time, what do the standings look like. Nothing has ever mattered. The Rays always beat the Toronto Blue Jays. You know, in their last 16 seasons, the Toronto Blue Jays have won the season series against the Tampa Bay Rays twice over the last 16 seasons. The last time the Blue Jays even won a home series season series against the Rays was back in 2017. The Rays beat the Jays 4 days. Horrible rhyme, but it's so accurate. These guys really concern me. We know the Rays are off to an amazing start. Now, it is true that they've only had 3 road games, and even their games this week are at home against the Boston Red Sox. So surely they won't come into Toronto on Friday as an unbeaten team anymore, but they've only had those 3 road games. So not going to be used to the road scene, that's for sure. Again, 2017, the last time the Jays won that season series at home against the Rays. Since that 2017, Blue Jays 18-24 against the Rays at Rogers Center. My goodness. The Jays have won the overall season series versus Tampa Bay 10-9 in 2017 and 11-8 in 2014. Those are the only 2 winning seasons. You have to go all the way back to 2006. Those are the only 2 winning seasons in there that the Blue Jays have had against the Tampa Bay Rays. My goodness. We're going to see Manoah, Gausman, and Bassett versus the Tigers. So that's amazing news. But my goodness, that leaves Barrios, Kikuchi, and then Manoah versus Tampa Bay on the Sunday finale. So there's some good news. Manoah will get 2 starts in this homestand. But wow, Tampa Bay Rays, the hottest team in baseball, who always beats the Blue Jays, coming to town. And your opening starter is Barrios. And then you move to Kikuchi in that second game. Oh boy, you see why we may need to insist on a sweep of Detroit, because here comes Tampa. They're awesome. They kill the Jays. That Sunday game, by the way, looks like it's going to be, if everything stays the way it's slated right now, looks like it's going to be Alek Manoah versus Shane McClanahan. Wow versus wow. That's 2 of the best pitchers in all of baseball. That's incredible. That's an incredible game. And even though it will be Alek Manoah on the mound on Sunday, considering it's McClanahan and the Rays, somehow the Jays have to find a way to win either on Friday or Saturday to make this a good homestand, so they don't have Tampa take 2 out of 3 or sweep, right? Even if that's on the heels of a Detroit sweep, can't have a 3-3 homestand for the Toronto Blue Jays. They did very well on the road, need to be dominant like they have been recently at home. It very much, again, if everything stays on pace, it looks like it's going to be Drew Rasmussen for Tampa Bay in the opener against Barrios. Rasmussen right now is their 5th starter. And that has to go in quotes, 5th starter. Our 5th starter right now is Yusei Kikuchi. You know how I feel about Yusei Kikuchi. No bueno. Their 5th starter is Drew Rasmussen. Rasmussen's had 2 starts this season. He's totaled 13 innings, hasn't given up a run yet. He's given up 3 total hits, hasn't walked a batter, has struck out 15. I'm going to say that again. Drew Rasmussen, Tampa Bay, their 5th starter. 2-0 this season. He's won both starts. 13 innings pitched total, 3 hits allowed, no runs allowed, no walks allowed, 15 strikeouts. This Tampa Bay Rays team, this Tampa Rays team is something, right? My gosh, they're something. And that's the pitching side of it. The offense, all of a sudden, because Tampa Bay being awesome, bringing a great pitching staff into the Rogers Center, that is par for the course. We've seen that a billion times. That happens annually. But how often do we see Tampa come in with an amazing offense? This is new, and I think downright rude of Tampa that they've actually got their offense going. Their offense is number one in almost every single offensive category there is. And if you took a look, it would be eye pop emoji, because they're not just number one in these offensive categories. They're number one by a huge, huge margin. So 6-game homestand, first of the year for the Blue Jays. How do they find a way to go 4-2 minimum in this homestand? Well, they've got to make hay in these first 3 games against Detroit. Our new sponsor, So Rare, is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace, transforming fans and owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. So Rare MLB game weeks happen twice weekly and span a 3 to 4 day cycle. At the end of game weeks, So Rare MLB managers who rank at or near the top of their leaderboards win a variety of rewards, which can include So Rare scarcity cards, game tickets, merchandise, signed jerseys, VIP experiences like meeting MLB stars. Prizes may vary depending on the competition. So Rare recently partnered with MLB All-Stars Juan Soto and Julio Rodriguez, Wow and Wow, to serve as brand ambassadors. Both are featured in So Rare's current brand campaign and will engage with So Rare community throughout the season at MLB events. Head to sorare.com/lockedon. That's SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's sorare.com/lockedon to start playing today. I am Craig Ballard. I am Locked On Blue Jays. Special crossover episode. As you know, finally, Toronto Blue Jays getting a home stand, getting a home opener. But, Craig, it's April 11th. Didn't you have your home opener ages ago? No, we did not. By far and away, the last team to have their home opener, the Detroit Tigers, for the 5th time in franchise history, are the Blue Jays' opponent on opening day. So I thought, who do we need to get a breakdown of the Detroit Tigers? Well, if you can think of somebody better than Scotty Bentley from Locked On Tigers, I'd love to hear it. Scotty Bentley, say hello to the good people.
How's it going, man? Yeah, no, I appreciate you reaching out. This is, both of us have off days on Monday as well, so neither of us have games to talk about or anything. So it's kind of just perfect timing early in the year to talk a little bit of ball about these two former division rivals, but not obviously anymore.
Scott, I think you're blowing a lot of people's minds there. A lot of baseball fans, I think, are newer baseball fans. So the whole idea of the wild card, that's business as usual. Scotty, of course, referring to, this is before his day. This is firmly in my day when you won your division or you did not make the playoffs. And what were the divisions? There was an American League East with 7 teams, an American League West with 7 teams, American League East with 7 teams, National League East 7 teams, National League West 7 teams. And that's it. You finished in first place or you moved on. And Scotty Bentley's Detroit Tigers were just downright rude. Just as a side note, in the 1984 season, the Tigers started off 35-5. So imagine that. That's a 6-month season. And a month and a half in, things are jam done. I will never forget. That was Willie Hernandez was the Cy Young. He was the closer. He was the Cy Young winner and MVP that season. Jack Morris, of course, was awesome. Alan Trammell, Lou Whitaker, Kirk Gibson, Darrell Evans. I think wasn't that the year he hit like 41 home runs at first base when no one hit home runs in the 40s in those days, right, Scott? Like he was. That was all incredible. That was all that was all very impressive, but hurtful to me, Scott. Hurtful to me and the rest of the American League East. I'll say that. But anyway, now Scotty, when I look at the 2023 Toronto Blue Jays, I mean, I think the roster as is a World Series contender. I firmly believe they're well positioned to add another piece, make another, dare I say, big trade, at least fairly big trade, leading up to, if not at, the trade deadline. And I'll be absolutely stunned. I don't think there's anything that can happen where the 2023 Toronto Blue Jays don't make the playoffs. Now, other side of the coin, Detroit Tigers. I've seen 2 wins from the Tigers. We've seen 2 wins from the Tigers this season. I saw your takeaway videos afterwards, your game recaps on both games. Scotty, dare I say you were pleasantly surprised. Scotty, I felt like you were almost surprised to win those games. It was against Houston. That's good teams. But basically, my point being, Scotty, I don't think you're about to echo, yeah, you know what? World Series contenders, the Tigers as well. I don't think that's what you're about to say. But what does a successful 2023 look like for the Tigers?
You know, that really is the $1 million question, because I think we're already – I say that already 9 games into the season, we're very well aware that this team is not going to win a boatload of games. But I think in January and February and March, we were well aware of that. So that's not really new to anybody. It's just as frustrating, but that part of it's not really new. I think we all kind of knew our expectations and limitations coming into the season. But in our season preview, my takeaway from, or my opinion rather, of a successful season was just answering some questions for this team. Like we had a 2021 where this team almost went 500 and played like well above their pay grade. And if it wasn't for a horrible April, would have been over 500. And then they added pieces and called up top prospects. And 2022 was supposed to be this great year, and it was absolutely horrible. And so I think a lot of what deems this season as successful in my eyes and in this fan base's eyes is just answering some questions about like who's going to be here long term. Like we have a revolving door at third base. We have a revolving door for pretty much like 6 of 8 bullpen spots. We have several young pitchers or pitchers on 1-year deals that like who knows which one of those are kind of implemented long term. We have a lot of top prospects who didn't look good last year. Are they going to perform this year and prove themselves to be part of like the long term plan of this team? That's really the biggest thing for me, is just after the season, if we can look and go, okay, we have some clear answers. We have hopefully a clear core or group of players that we are planning on and can pencil in to be kind of like build this team around going forward. I think that would be more than a win-loss record could really ever say, because we know it's not going to be too pretty. I think that's probably the biggest win we could have this season is a decent sized group of players. We can go, okay, I want all of these guys back next year and the year after and the year after.
You mentioned third base and relievers. A very interesting trade with some Toronto Blue Jay ties was the Tigers pulling the trigger to bring in Matt Vierling and Maton as well. Hopefully that third base revolving door, hopefully Maton can address that. I say it's got Blue Jay ties because it was in exchange for Roger Clemens' son, former Blue Jay, and Gregory Soto, who I don't know if you know, Scotty, Blue Jay fans were clamoring for Gregory Soto. I know many fan bases were actually at the trade deadline last season, but in particular Blue Jay fans. I actually, even though I was a little bit downer, I know that doesn't make sense, downer on Tim Meza in 2022 than I was on him in 2021, I still, when you look at Meza's season versus Soto's season, Meza was still completely superior against the lefties. Soto good against the righties, which comes into play now because you have to face 3 batters. But bottom line, I wasn't as crazy in pursuit of for Soto as most Blue Jay fans were. But that's 2 new players that we'll see tonight, not just tonight, in this series from Detroit, Vierling and Maton. I would imagine both would be in the game, would be in the lineup all 3 games. What are you excited about either one of them, Scott?
Yeah, definitely. And I don't want to get it misconstrued where I'm saying that like Vierling and Maton are going to go out and put up like all-star seasons or anything like that. But these are guys that one are both going to get every opportunity to play. Like and that's something they didn't have in Philadelphia. That's why this trade was made, was because these guys aren't like 21, 22 years old. Like these are 25, 26-year-old dudes who just haven't been able to break a World Series caliber lineup over there in Philadelphia. And so I do really like Maton. He's gotten off to a rough start to the season as far as batting average goes. He doesn't have too many hits to his name, but he's walking a lot, which I really appreciate. And third base is obviously a huge need, so he's going to get a lot of looks there. And Vierling is just like a StatCast darling. Like he runs unbelievably fast. He's one of the fastest sprint speeds like in all of baseball, and he has the ability to hit the ball hard and all that. So he people that are big on like Baseball Savant really like Matt Vierling's potential. So, and Vierling's gotten off to a really good start this season, which is nice to see. He's pretty much the sole reason we won the first game of the season in Houston that you were referring to. So, I'm definitely looking forward to both of them getting a ton of playing time. And one being a righty and one being a lefty. We're kind of seeing at least one of them in the lineup pretty much every night based on platoons and all that.
Vierling, was it the first win or the second win? Got the extra inning game-winning home run against Houston. You had to like that. And I've seen him as well, Scotty, at all different positions in the lineup. So he seems to be bringing some versatility to that Detroit lineup. So looks like that trade could work out for you guys. Now, as far as tonight's pitching matchup, Alek Manoah, Matt Manning, Alek Manoah, glass half full for Tiger fans? Is that the fact that Manoah has struggled, struggled 0-1, but that ERA, 4.63 career ERA against Detroit, that's not very Alek Manoah-like. Last year in the same ballpark, Detroit beat Alek Manoah.
Yeah.
That's the end of the glass half full from the Tigers side, Scotty, because there is some glass half full from the Blue Jays side. If you deep dive who gave Manoah fits last season for the Tigers? Well, in that game that he lost to the Tigers last season, I believe a 4-2 final, Victor Reyes went 3 for 5 with an RBI. He's in Chicago. Harold Castro had 2 RBIs. He's in Colorado. The other Castro, Willie Castro, had the home run. He's in Minnesota. Current Tigers, just 3 for 20 versus Alek Manoah. So my goodness, Scotty. So I tried to help you with some glass half full stuff because, traditionally the Tigers haven't done poorly against Manoah. But what are you expecting tonight from this lineup? Because the guys in the lineup tonight have struggled against Alek Manoah. And the guys in this lineup tonight, your 2 best hitters, you talked about them, those young guys, Green and Torkelson, guys like that. I feel like Vierling, I feel like Detroit's best hitters are right-handed, and Alek Manoah against righties, that 2-seamer and that 4-seamer work, and that slider against righties, Scotty, I always joke, it shouldn't even be allowed. His slider against we're supposed to be engaged in competition here, Scotty. Alek Manoah's slider against righty is complete domination. So I have to imagine you're a little bit concerned tonight.
Yeah, well, I voiced my concerns for the first 6 weeks of this season multiple times on the show. If you look at the Tigers' schedule from opening day until like May 14th, it is all like 500 or better, or like teams that are going to be at least in the wild card hunt. Like it is an absolute gauntlet for a team that's already really kind of laboring and going through its own struggles. It's not, we just can't seem to catch a break in that regard. And so, yeah, I'm very concerned about pretty much every series from now until like May 20th, to be honest with you. And yeah, this one is certainly no different. Alek Manoah, I know he's, I guess controversial is probably the word, especially of late with just his antics on the mound. I absolutely love it, but he is able to do that because he is a darn good pitcher. And I definitely, not only, I have a buddy who is an Angels fan, and obviously that's the series you're coming off of. And when going into the weekend, I was talking to him about the fact that he was playing the Blue Jays and whatnot, and what they were expecting, and the fact that we played the Blue Jays right after him. And he was like, oh yeah, well, it's, we play the Blue Jays, but we're not getting any of their best pitchers. And in the back of my head, I'm like, oh great, that means that means that we're getting all of the best pitchers. So like obviously Manoah and then Gausman and whatnot. It's going to be a tall task. And we have yet to really see a full 9-inning game from this Tigers team this season. We're already 9 games deep, where they have put together really competitive at-bats from innings 1 through 9, like genuinely. And even in the wins, there was some good pitching performances by the Astros in those outings. We were just able to keep them off the board a little bit more. So, I mean, we'll see. But I would say concerned is kind of my lying emotion around this entire organization at the moment, nonetheless, for this series, for sure.
Understood. Grand slams, no hitters, and double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. That's because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. So don't miss your chance to get the no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Greg Ballard, Locked On Blue Jays, with Scotty Bentley of Locked On Tigers. Now, Scotty, how about the other side of that coin? How about Matt Manning? That's your first-round draft pick in 2016. Not sure that he's delivered. Well, that's just from the outside looking in. You're the insider. You'll let us know. I thought what was odd for me, Scotty, is I liked his forcing fastball last season. I thought it worked. He won his debut, which was a week ago today, against Houston. At Houston, I mean, fair game, right? Like that's the tip of the hat, yes. But his fastball got hit. So what are Blue Jay fans? What do we make of that, Scotty? What can Blue Jay fans expect to see from Matt Manning opposing us tonight?
If I knew what to expect from Matt Manning every single night, I would be a millionaire, because that is something that I don't think this fan base even quite knows. That's been the biggest knock against him is that there's 2 things. One is a legitimate third pitch. The fastball is obviously, you're going to see that a ton. I'll get to that in a second. The slider is his second favorite pitch, but it's kind of inconsistent on its production and how good of a pitch it is. And then he doesn't really have a solidified third pitch, and that's hard to be a major league starter with only 2 pitches like that. So that's the first knock. And the second one is legitimately just inconsistency across the board. We'll probably see it in the start. You'll probably see him in the second inning. His fastball will top out at 91, and you'll be like, oh, like, that's kind of weird. And then in the fourth, on an 0-2 count, he'll touch 96, and you'll be like, where did this come from? And that's just kind of the story of Matt Manning so far as a major leaguer. And the fastball was really effective last year. It was a very, very good pitch when it was located well. And that is going to be really, from a start to start, his entire the production that he gets is going to be heavily reliant, because of all those other questions he has, around the command of his fastball. If he's commanding the fastball well, if it's a solid 93 and a half mile an hour pitch, and he's putting it where he wants to, he's going to have a pretty decent night probably. But if he's not, then everything else starts to unravel, because every single start is heavily just based on his ability to do that, because he throws the fastball 50-60% of the time. So I would say concern is honestly a word I would use for him as well, especially against the Blue Jays team that historically, when you look at, not only is it just one of the better lineups in baseball, but that is a lineup of people who specifically hit fastballs well. So when you throw out a dude that throws a non-overpowering fastball, almost 60% of the time, it's going to be a test for Matt Manning, to say the least.
And who would you say, Scotty, from a Tigers fan standpoint, Bo Bichette's a household name. He's 1 for 3 with a double against Manning. Slim Daddy Vladimir Guerrero Jr., 2 for 3 with a double against Manning. But who would you caution your fellow Tiger fans? And hey, I get the headline guys, George Spring at the top of the lineup. I get it. But hey, after you've gone through that gauntlet, Matt Manning better be careful of a couple of these guys as well. Who are some other hitters in this Blue Jay lineup that you, from the outside looking in, have your eye on?
Whoever plays catcher for you on a nightly basis. I love catchers. So that's like my favorite position in sports. And the offseason, when you guys were wheeling and dealing at the catcher position, obviously, we said on our show that, you need bats and you have a plethora of young pitching. Could there be a deal lined up where we gave the Blue Jays some young pitching help and they gave us one of the catchers? Obviously, that didn't happen. But I'm a huge fan of Kirk. I'm really just whoever you put back there on a nightly basis. It's such a impressive offensive output from catcher that you guys have managed to get, which not too many teams, I guess, really in baseball are able to say. And well, there's a few in the AL East, weirdly enough, but it's just a really impressive thing. And I assuming we get Kirk more times than we don't, him especially, just really, really impressive offensive output from that. And a guy, again, that can hit fastballs really well.
I would certainly predict it's going to be Kirk in the opener. That will be his 40th time catching Manoah. Jansen's only caught him 4 times, and it's not like Manoah blew up in those. I don't, to be totally honest with you, Scotty, I don't really know why Kirk and Manoah have become such a marriage, but whatever. Really fascinated to hear an outsider that's as knowledgeable of the game as you are, Scotty, comment on the Blue Jays catchers. More tomorrow with Scotty Bentley of Locked On Tigers as we get you set for Game 2 of this series. That will see Tigers ace Eduardo Rodriguez take on Blue Jays stud Kevin Gausman. For now, head over to Locked On Fantasy MLB. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow. Touch them all, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life.